Hello and welcome to the MovieKing Podcast. My name is David Jurmann. I'll be your host. And over the course of this podcast, we're going to talk about a lot of movies, movie news, just a lot of exciting stuff in the movie world. And I think I wanted to take this first episode to just talk about a movie that everyone has seen, a little small indie flick known as Deadpool and Wolverine. You know what? I just want to start off by saying I am a huge Marvel fan. I love Marvel comics. I love Marvel movies, video games, their shows. I love everything, that they have. And I mean, while the last few years have been kind of rough for them, I've been rooting for Deadpool and Wolverine for several reasons. I mean, Hugh Jackman is one of my favorite actors ever, probably is my favorite actor. Wolverine, his interpretation of Wolverine especially, is one of my favorites of, any actor playing a superhero ever. And you know what? I mean, just Wolverine's also one of my favorite characters in comic book media. And I also just love the Deadpool movies. Well, I don't love them, but I think they're very good, and I think they're a lot of fun. Now, Deadpool and Wolverine was an interesting one because it's coming at a time where Marvel has been on a little bit of a bit of a lull. No one's really been that hyped for them since Endgame. And, they've had a few hits. They've had No Way Home. They had Shang-Chi, which wasn't, a huge financial hit, but I think people really liked it. And, they just need a really good hit right now. And Deadpool and Wolverine is that for a lot of people. I mean, it brought back a lot of their loyal viewers. People are really excited for it. And I was also very excited for it. And I think, I will say right now, I really enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. I've seen it 4 times now. And I'm going to... So, I'm going to say a lot of what I liked and didn't like about the movie. And, I'm going to give a very... I like to be, very clear with my explanations. I don't really believe in just saying I liked it or didn't like it because, no reason at all. I like being very specific. I like saying what elements I liked. And maybe I'll give a little bit of a mixed bag. But, I think that Deadpool and Wolverine is the movie Marvel needed right now. And it's kind of what I wanted out of it, but I also have to say I was a little disappointed with certain elements of it. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm really excited to do this podcast because I really want to get into details. I'll try to maybe be as spoiler free for now as possible. Maybe I'll kind of give a spoiler warning halfway through, but for the next like 20 minutes or so, I'm just going to kind of go into it in my thoughts. And yeah, let's just start off with the fact that I think this is, again, a really fun movie. Marvel, they needed this. They really did. It's just a very fun, it is a hard R. I mean, I also have to give them credit. Uh, you know, the only rule Kevin Feige, producer of Marvel, said is, no really talking about drugs or doing drugs or anything like that. So, they had the fun little Kevin Feige cocaine joke, and that was that was pretty funny. But other than that, it's a pretty hard R. Like, it matches the other two Deadpools. It might even be more gory in some ways than the others. And I think they didn't miss a beat. They really brought back the spirit of the other Deadpool movies. It really felt like, the same creative team was there. And I just had a lot of fun with it. It was great seeing Hugh Jackman there too as Wolverine. I think they have really good chemistry. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. And I think as a whole, the movie's just a lot of fun. I think the action is very well done. Director Sean Levy, I think he actually puts a nice stamp on the movie. I mean, I don't think he's my favorite director out there, just in terms of his style. I don't really think he does anything too distinct, and I kind of wish the movie maybe had a little bit of a greater creative voice in there to really just kind of like look different and feel very different from the other Deadpool movies. But you know what? I think they did what they needed to do. And I think it's a lot of fun. The action is really cool. I think that just a lot of what this movie was going for worked, to put it simply. And, I think it's just really entertaining. It's very funny, too. Out of all 3 Deadpool movies, I think they're all funny. I think this is the funniest. There's just so many lines. I want to get in this. I don't know. I'm not going to spoil them right now, but there's just one joke, especially where he just, like, takes the camera. That's just so funny. I laugh so hard every time I've seen it again. I've seen this movie 4 times now. It's just as funny every single time. And I also have to comment on that opening sequence too, which is probably one of my it is probably my favorite Deadpool opening sequence. And I have to say, like, I'm a huge fan of both Deadpool, the first two Deadpool movies opening sequences. I think they're all terrific, and I think this one actually even one ups it. Um, and I think the finale also, the third act, has a lot of really strong sequences. There's some really good use of music there. They really just did a good job with everything you wanted out of this Deadpool and Wolverine movie. As far as fan service and expectations went, they really delivered. Where I have to say the movie did disappoint me, though, a little bit, is the story. And you know what? Some of you may be thinking right now, like, it's a Deadpool movie. It doesn't need a great story. Like, what did you expect? And I say to that, I expected at least a competent story. And just, I think it's one of those movies where if you turn your brain off and you just like look at it as a comedy and you just laugh at it and you don't really think, it works. It's totally fine. You can follow it. It's not like, it doesn't make like zero sense just like watching it, not thinking about it much. But every time I try to put, I try to like put things together in the story. Every time I try to piece what's going on, it just all falls apart because nothing makes sense. Like, how did a character get here? How did, this character. What I'm trying to say is every time, like, I would try to think about why a character was doing something or how a character got somewhere, it just wouldn't make any sense to me. And I think there's just a lot of things like that in the story. They're just lazy. This movie, I have to note, this movie was also written right before the writer's strike happened. It was filming right around when the writer's strike took place, and then the actor's strike also happened and interrupted production. So, I mean, all of that actually, might have played a role in some of this. I can't say for sure. I don't want to assume. But, I just couldn't help but feel like some elements of this story weren't totally adding up to me. And it goes for a lot of things. I can kind of let some things pass. The way I look at movies is like, you have to let some things just kind of, go. Like, logic can't, it's not going to always make sense. It's a movie. It's not real life. So I understand that. But I think there's like a certain level of disbelief you can, suspend. And I think this movie kind of stretches that to a really large degree, to the point where, again, like, I just have so many questions about the movie that weren't answered. And I think it's because the movie's so vague with a lot of it that I was just kind of left, wondering, like, how is this possible? Like, what's happening right now? And I think that's a little disappointing to me because Marvel was always just strong with their stories. They were strong with character development and good, really satisfying character arcs. And this movie has like very basic character arcs. It just feels very safe in a lot of storytelling areas. And again, if you look at it just as an entertaining movie, it's so good. Like, I loved this movie for that. I think it's one of the most fun movies of the whole year for that. And that's why I've seen it 4 times, because it's so fun and it's so entertaining and I really get a good kick out of it. But every time I watch it, I keep hoping maybe I'll just care a little less about what the story's doing. Maybe I'll just kind of forgive it more. And every time I also find myself questioning what's happening even more because I'm noticing more details that don't make any sense. Um, and some of it, again, maybe I'll go into a brief spoiler bit at the end of it just to kind of ask a few questions and kind of, propose what I'm not sure about. But there's just a lot that I wish was more thought out in the story. And that goes from small nitpicky things to big central ideas that the story quite literally like relies on to move. Um, but again, I wanna say like that I do enjoy this movie and I root for Marvel so much because I think what they managed to achieve with these first 3 phases of the MCU is absolutely, it's unprecedented. Like, we've never seen anything like it in cinematic history, and I think it's so impressive. And the last couple of phases have just been kind of disappointing to me, so I'm really hoping they get their act together a bit more later on, but, I think this was a nice, at least, for the audience, I think it was a nice reminder that they still have the spark that, they had initially. Like the spark that was always there, that was like fun characters and just really entertaining movies. It's still there. Like they can still be very good when they want to be. It's just I think the script needed more work. Um, and I guess this is where maybe you know what? I'll go into my spoiler discussion right now. So I guess if you don't want any spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine, please feel free to kind of turn this off. Come back another time when you've seen the movie. I'm assuming if you've listened to this podcast, you probably have seen the movie, but let's just kind of start off with a few, kind of plot holes I have with the story. And one is, how does Wade get to the sacred timeline? In the beginning of the movie, he kind of uses Cable's time travel device from Deadpool 2, and it's clear, he can time travel with it. That all makes sense, but it was never established that he could travel through the multiverse with it. I think that kind of got very confusing to me with like how he got to Happy Hogan in the main MCU, why he was there. Obviously he wanted to be an Avenger, but it also just didn't make any sense to me. Also logistically, of like, okay, he's going there because his, Vanessa wants him. She was kind of like, I guess, wanting him to have a purpose, or Wade thought he needed a purpose to impress her. I don't really know. It wasn't really explained that well. But in any case, I'm just like, what was his point? Like, what was he trying to do? If he got the job as an Avenger on another Earth, was he just going to stay there and leave Vanessa? Or was he just going to come back every so often? Like, it wouldn't fly anyway. So I feel like you almost could have even had the story just rely on that exclusively, because nothing made, if you just had that as the story, that's already kind of like something the TVA would go against. So I don't know. That to me was a bit of a problem. I also have some issues with like, why was Laura X-23? Why was she pruned to the void? Like, she was from Logan's world. I feel like that was very unclear. I mean, we understand why characters like Elektra and Blade, why they're there, and Gambit, we understand why they're in the void. But Laura was, I don't know. I'm a little confused about why Laura was there. There's some other things with like the whole idea of an anchor being. I understand it's kind of taken from the comics a little bit. I just think as a concept, it's a very, I think it's just too complicated for a movie. I just don't think you can really contain it well. And I think it also just adds a lot of questions, like, how does that work? What happens in the several years before this person is born? That the whole idea that a person, the whole universe revolves around this one person, and their life and death is, around this universe. I'm like, how does that work though? Because the character, is the universe just, does it exist before this person's born? I mean, like, you can argue with like Iron Man, like the MCU was born from Iron Man, but like there were things that happened before he was born. So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. That's a problem I have. And you can say I'm nitpicking. I mean, you can say like, it doesn't matter. It's like it's like, who cares? It's a Deadpool movie. I'm just like, I think these things should be a little more established. Just as a comic book movie, I think I'm expecting as an audience member to get a little bit of an answer that I can kind of like brush aside and be like, okay, fine. So I wish there was more of that. And I'm trying to think. There were a bunch of other things. I think just regarding like the TVA and why Paradox was giving Deadpool his entire plan before he did anything. Like, it's like, if you just didn't tell Wade anything, if you didn't tell Deadpool anything, this whole plot wouldn't happen, and it's like, it would just go on as normal. I mean, I understand he needs Deadpool for the, inevitably for Secret Wars or something, but I just don't understand why. I don't know. It's giving me a bit. It's honestly giving me a bit of a headache just thinking about it. I shouldn't be thinking about this too much. Again, I mean, I understand this movie very well. It's a Deadpool movie. We're not supposed to take it that seriously, and I understand that. But I also, I'm like a film critic. I I analyze movies like all the time. I can't just like completely let it go. The first Deadpool movie I could let it go. It's like I don't think there's anything in these first Deadpool movies that really like had me question things that much. I think just once you bring the multiverse into it, it adds a lot of questions. And I wish things were clarified a bit more. Um, but you know what? Again, as a movie, it's very fun. It's very enjoyable. I think it's a really good time. Um, and that's probably all I have to say about Deadpool and Wolverine. I think it's I don't want to just kind of keep it going unnecessarily long. I think you've kind of gotten my point. Um, it's a good movie. I would recommend it. I think it's well made in a lot of ways. Like I think Sean Levy really did try to put his stamp on it, and I would look forward to seeing these characters again. Um, but I hope they really kind of get the script a little tighter next time. I hope next time it's just a little bit better. But it was still super satisfying seeing Hugh Jackman back and his chemistry with Deadpool. I think it was just really satisfying in that regard. And I'm just happy this movie exists. I'm happy that we can all see it and enjoy it and laugh about it and talk about it. And yeah, so I mean, overall, I would say it's I guess on a rating, I would give it a B. I think it's a good movie. I just wish it was a little better. And you know what? I'm nitpicking a lot of it. I think as a movie though, it's entertaining and the funny parts, outweigh my real criticisms. I just wanted to take the time here to really kind of talk about some nitpicks I have because I haven't really seen too many people online pointing this out. And I don't want to be like a downer on the movie. I don't want to, I don't want to sound like I'm really tearing it apart when I don't mean to, but I just have to say, like, it's a movie that you have to turn your brain off to kind of enjoy. And, if you're fine with that, then that's great. Good for you. For me, it was a little hard to do that to some degree, but I did still enjoy it regardless. And I look forward to seeing what they do next. I hope, I think Marvel really needs a good next year. Perhaps next episode, maybe I'll talk about the fate of superhero movies next year and what I'm really excited about, what I'm a little nervous about. And yeah, but thank you so much for listening. Sorry, episode's a little bit messy. It's my first go, but hopefully as this goes, I'll become a little bit better at this, at kind of covering my thoughts, and I'll appreciate any feedback you can give. But thank you for sticking around if you're still here. And I'll talk to you next time. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good one. Bye-bye.